Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and this is going to be a really fun podcast for me. I'm really excited. I've got Regina Hofmanova, or as I would say as an American, Hofmanova, but Regina, you want to say where you are?
I'm in Prague, Czech Republic now, and it's really cold.
Prague, Czech Republic, and it's December 19th. Yeah. So I've been to Prague in the winter. It's funny, when I was in Prague, and this is not a travel podcast. We're going to talk about you and your film and your work, but I love Prague and I love travel, and I remember being lectured by some local Czech people saying, our country's Czechia. And they were like, this whole Czech Republic thing is just, we're really Czechia.
You know what? Czechia is very artificial. It's a new artificial word that the government decided to impose because Czech Republic was just very long. I mean, formerly we were Czechoslovakia, and my part of the country is actually Bohemia, which I thought would be like really cool. But there's a little part sort of bordering on Slovakia. It's Moravia. And they're like, oh, you can't call yourself like Bohemia. So now the government decided that they would come with this. It's an artificial name. And most of my friends, most of my colleagues always say Czech Republic, to be honest.
They say Czech Republic, yeah. I know. I agree with you. Bohemia would be wonderful. Go back to pre-Holy Roman Empire times. I love European history. I find it so fascinating. And of course, it is cold as heck there. And I always figured that's why there's so many wars. Because everyone was so cold. It was like, I don't know, let's warm up. Let's fire some guns just to warm up.
Frustrated, exactly.
Too frustrating. You notice in the warmer climates, people are more peaceful. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's true. And sometimes it's just too hot to do anything. Just like have good food, take a nap in the afternoon.
Eat some food. Well, anyway, I've now rambled about the Czech Republic a little too long. I'm going to mention your film Guest, which I love. I love it because we did a Q&A by Zoom when it was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival last year in 2022, where we showed it in the theater, which was a wonderful experience for me. Of course, you couldn't fly out. We don't expect people to fly out from Europe.
I would have loved to.
Yeah, it was. I can tell you that the audience loved the film. You won the Grand Jury Award for Best Short Film Dance and the Audience Award for Best Short Film Dance. It's just, it's such a special film. And you've heard me say before how much I appreciate, I love dance. I love dance films. I have no coordination. So for me, it's pure appreciation of the grace that other humans have. I'm even I get to be a guest curator for a dance film festival in the UK called the Exeter Dance International Film Festival. It's EDIFF, EDIFF, which the creator of that film festival says it's like a fun play on words that like it's Aunt Edith, like but so I love dance films, but your film is particularly enjoyable for me because you step outside traditional dance film norms and you have your characters do some dialogue and they always tell a story through dance, but you tell a story through more than just dance. So I think Guest is just, I will love Guest for the rest of my days.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure when I'm so old I can't remember my own name, I'll still be like, oh, that film Guest. Remember the way they danced in that apartment at first? So,
oh, thank you. That's so kind.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And so, as I say too often at these film festivals, it sounds like I love all movies, but I really don't. Like, we get 850 or so submissions. And really? So I talk about the 60, 65 that are in the festival that I think are wonderful. But trust me, like we could sit down and watch some of the ones that don't get in, like some of the lowest rated ones. And I could be like, let me tell you why everything about this film is bad. But in your case, I'm going to say how everything in the film is good because, it was at the top of the heap.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and like being selected for the festival was one of like the highlights of the festival circuit. And I'm really sorry I couldn't. I would have loved to come to the festival because, frankly, we had the film screening at 3 festivals within about 10 days in the United States. So it would have been ideal for me just to like festival hop. But of course, the financial aspect is a little bit too
you could have done a little
difficult.
US tour.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but next time.
Absolutely. And if you're ever planning a US trip and it happens to coincide with a festival, let me know in advance. Maybe I'll be a super corrupt festival programmer and slip it in if you want to see it on the big screen. It's not
great.
Right. It's pretty brief. I forget how long a film it is, but
just 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes. So, just sneak it in there. But anyway, because it would be, I love seeing these films on the
you know what they say about brevity. So
yeah. All right. Well, like we always do. Oh, wait. And so I should also mention that Guest is going to be a part of the Discover Indie Film TV series when I get my act together and get the next season done. So that's going to be exciting. So people can go to discoverindiefilm.com to learn more about that. Or you just go to Amazon Prime Video and you search for Discover Indie Film. Right now there's 7 seasons up. Guest will be part of season 8. When I figure out my time commitments, man, I've been a bad TV producer. A great festival runner this year.
You've got lots on your plate. You do so much.
I do too much.
You've got lots on your plate. So, like, you're super productive. I admire.
It's funny because it never feels that way. It always feels like I'm super productive,
I know. I'm like, with myself, I'm the same.
I know, because we have the mental list of everything that should be done.
Exactly.
And done well.
You can do more. There's always more you can do.
Always more. And there's things we want to do.
Exactly.
And now this is becoming a chat about efficiencies. But I'll add that hey, everybody, as of now, there is a nice young person named Calvin, and Calvin has become my podcast producer. So now, after we record this, I just put in a folder for him to finish up.
Great.
So hopefully that'll make me a more productive person next year, that I've got a podcast. So shout out to Calvin Matson.
Oh, shout out to him. Okay.
College senior. And he actually does a good job. I love it. I won't name names, but I've always tried to hire help. Everyone's like, you got to hire help. You got to hire help.
Yeah.
And you hire someone and you have high hopes. You give them a list of things and it
doesn't work out.
Yeah. You say, here's 5 things that need to be done. And they do the one thing that interests them. And the other 4 don't get done. I'm like, well, if I want someone to do the fun stuff, that's not what I'm looking for. But anyway, I'm sharing too much because I enjoy your company so much.
Oh, thank you.
But let's jump over to you. I won't even mention anything about myself or the podcast anymore and what goes on. You made a brilliant dance film. So I'm assuming there's probably, I can't remember our talk last year. So assuming there's a dance background, the film background. Do you want to just start where your creative journey started and when you felt the urge to work in the arts?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the wonderful selection and the awards from Sherman Oaks. They really mean a lot. And thank you for, following up on the films and everything. It's really, really cool. But about myself, when I was, by the way, sorry for this croaky voice. I've got a cold, so there's nothing much I can do about it. But anyway, I won't really start with my childhood. I come from a family of like film buffs. My parents, even my grandmother, they were really into film. So watching films was always something we did. I didn't understand people who never owned a TV. My parents would be like super focused on what we watch. And I just spent a lot of time in my childhood going to movies. My mom would take me. But when I was growing up, and I sort of assume we're almost the same age, being a filmmaker or like a director or being involved in film was only for like superior human beings or people who had the right connections, someone sort of untouchable. So I never even thought of getting into film when I was younger. And I had always been involved in dance, like doing ballet, contemporary dance. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, I grew up really fast. I'm quite tall. So that was to the detriment of my dancing. And also I started having problems with my back and I couldn't do a lot of the stuff. But so then I went to study languages at university, specifically interpreting. And after that, I remember going to see, I've always been into dance, and I went to see the graduate performance of the Performing Arts Academy here in Prague. And I remember, this is cruel, but I wasn't very impressed. And I thought I could do that. And and you had to go through talent competition, and I got through. So I studied choreography at the Performing Arts Academy, and then went on to be a choreographer, which is a bit rich to say that because people like being a choreographer, they're a dime a dozen, frankly. Being like making your living purely off choreography is no mean feat, especially if you live like in a smaller country. There's just not enough work to go around. And I used to do some of my own projects, which I, of course, enjoy most, but at the same time, they're the ones that are the most difficult to pull off because you've got the financial aspect and you've got to self-produce. It's like what you're doing. 90% of the time you're doing the stuff that you don't like. You're organizing, stage and the theater and promotional stuff and whatever. And then I did a lot of movement direction and choreography for opera, which I enjoyed initially, but later it sort of became this thing of I love to direct. I honestly do. Even I would have loved to direct an opera, but that's also sort of not simple. You have to be like in the loop to be getting jobs. And if you're not, then you have directors going like, oh, well, have the dancers do something in the background. Like, and I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about it or something? Oh no, just like something. And I just got fed up with it. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe it was my mistake because once you're out of the loop, it's very difficult to get back in. But at that point in time, I thought like, okay, I've done about 10 productions. I don't know whether I can handle this anymore. Although I did enjoy, for example, working with the chorus, which most choreographers and directors, opera directors hate. Not most, well, I don't know most, but the ones that I know, they don't like to work with the chorus. It's very difficult. You've got a lot of people that you need to control on stage and, just like that. And then after a certain time, I thought I'll be really cool to do like a dance film because I've seen all these, a couple of these films by, I don't know whether you know this company, DV8. It's like a British, the head of the company was Lloyd Newson. And he was sort of a pioneer of dance theater in the UK. Well, of a sort of specific dance theater in the UK. And their shows were like really cutting edge. I really liked them. And he turned a couple of his shows into dance films, exactly the ones that I or you, I think, would like, because they don't only involve dancing, they involve dialogue and other things. They go from like A to B with some sort of purpose in mind. And I thought it'd be cool to do something like that. And at that time in Prague, this institution, and I won't name it, was organizing this workshop with a filmmaker that used to work as a film director with this company, TVHi. And it was a workshop for choreographers who wanted to get into film and do dance film. So I signed up, or I wanted to sign up the first year, and I got rejected. And they were like, oh, you're too late and whatever, next year. So I was sure to sign up very early on in the following year. And they were like, fine, you're on the list. And I had like everything ready, the script, the storyboard, mood board, everything under the sun. I had talked to the dancers and whatever. And 2 weeks, I think, before, or even a week before they launched the project, I was delisted. I asked why. I never got an answer. And that's when I thought, that's one of those aha moments when you think, okay, this isn't going to work. I mean, if you want something done, you just have to do it yourself. And you can't like sit around and wait for someone to, give you a bit of good luck or good fortune. So then I went to London and I decided to go to film school. I went to Central Film School in London, did a filmmaking course. And then I did like various stints on other filmmakers' movies, like be it assistant director, assistant camera. We did the 48-hour film project. Have you ever been involved in that?
I haven't done one. Most people I know have.
Yeah, and, it's like a
really fun way to turn around quickly.
Exactly. It's like you learn so many things so quickly, and it's not for the faint-hearted, I can tell you. If you really want to do everything in 48 hours, you just have to push through.
It's definitely a lesson in not being precious about the details, I suppose.
Exactly. But it's about things, for example, when we did it, we were working with some people from a different film school, and they brought in too many people. We just had like assistant this, assistant that, runner. And like, you just can't afford to have that many people on a small set in a short period of time. So we had to let some of them go, and I was directing, and you have to sit through the whole process. I slept like 4 hours during the whole weekend, but it was fun because I was on adrenaline. You have to, supervise the editing, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was a good experience. And then I shot my first dance film, Steadfast, which had been to like a dozen or festivals or 14 festivals. Still last year we were at one festival because it was based on a Hans Christian Andersen story. And so I submitted it to this festival in Italy, which focuses on dance films based on literary works, which was exactly the focus of the film. And it was very, as opposed to Guest, it's very, very visual and lyrical. Also, there's not actually much dancing in it, and it's not long. And after that, I did.
Let me jump in and ask, when you went to that film school in London, and did but you were also just studying film in general, right? It wasn't Was there a focus on dance film from the beginning, or
No,
was it
just film in general.
yeah, film in general, which must have been great to just look at
Yeah.
the medium as itself instead of look at it just as it applies to dance.
No, I didn't really like. I'll talk about it later because I am not like. Somehow I'm not liking the label dance film. I know that this is like how it's classified, but I prefer like films that involve dance or movement and make it part of the narrative rather than just like, oh, we have this nice dance and it's going to be like nicely visual. Fine, that's fine. But I just wanted to study the whole process of making a film. And I've actually found out that I hate to say it, but I was sort of like good at it. I don't know, because in England, a lot of people have, I don't know how to put it. I don't have a problem telling people what to do because when I work for opera, I've worked on productions, 120 people on stage. You can't just stand there and just like let everyone improvise. That's not what you're there for. Actually, people appreciate when you tell them what to do and when to do it. That's what I think. And so I thought, And then I also went to, have you heard of the Rain Dance Institute?
Yes.
In London, they also organize this big film festival, the Rain Dance Film Festival. It's really
I know the gentleman who launched it. Well, I don't know him well.
What's his name?
Dove
He's
Siemens?
Canadian.
Dove, right? D-O-V is his first name.
I don't know. He's Canadian.
Well, honestly, he started it. It was just to counterbalance Sundance, right? Rain Dance versus Sundance.
Yeah. I took some courses and classes with them as well as a follow-up to get a slightly different point of view or a different focus on things, because obviously if you have different tutors, you will be focusing on different things. And it was also really useful because I met a lot of filmmakers that I'm in touch with until this very day. And that's really cool. Some of them are like me. They do, apart from filmmaking, they do other things to make a living. And some have become like, full-time editors, or they work in post-production houses and stuff. And so it's really cool being able to share experience, because if I have doubts about something, I always have someone that I can call and ask, or write to them and say, hey, what do you do in this situation? Or have you ever come across this and this? Or do you find this and this difficult? And there's always some advice I get. And that's actually really, really useful, because here in Prague, it is just not like that. Yeah. And then after I did Steadfast, which was that was really like a dance film, although without much dancing. I worked on a couple of commercial films, like with an artist. I produced like this short film he wanted something that was a bit alternative to highlight or showcase one of his designs. And that was actually really fun. So I did that. I worked as a choreographer for some video artists. I did a video installation in London as well, which was shown in the Barge House in London, which is this sort of very alternative but quite well-known venue. And and then I came to Guest, but Guest has the production journey was far longer, and it wasn't really straightforward. Should I talk about that now?
Absolutely, yeah. If you've reached that point in the story, but I was going to add that I absolutely appreciate what you said, that you took to directing and you took to understanding that people like being directed and like good. The thing is, it's good direction that people appreciate. When there's a director who is throwing out nonsense or throwing out ideas that aren't congruous with the piece, then everybody reacts badly. But when someone who understands what's going on comes in and directs people, artists absolutely love that. So I'm saying you're good at it, and you discovered you're good at it through the program in London.
No, I usually also like to be a bit lighthearted when I work with people. Just throw in a bit of humor, just show people, okay, this isn't like. We're not flying a spaceship to the moon. We're not like, it's not brain surgery. We're actually just having a bit of fun, but let's give it some sort of concept, or, if something doesn't work, I usually turn it into a joke of why isn't working. And of course, if I make a mistake, the DOP can make anyone like does something wrong. So just, we're human. Let's just work on it in that respect. And maybe also I've been quite fortunate that I've worked with good people. I've never really had trouble with anyone on set or on the crew, which is what I've heard. Sometimes filmmakers don't make the right choice. Sometimes there's tension, or it's like what you said with people you select, you assign certain roles to, and then it doesn't work out. But I've sort of been quite fortunate. So then with Guest actually started as a stage show. I applied for a grant after many, many years in Prague because I was coming back from London for various reasons. I was in London for about 8 years. And I applied for a grant, and unfortunately, the grant fell like on the COVID period. So I got the grant, and it was during the first COVID lockdown. Then they lifted the lockdown. Then I did an audition, and all was like, sunshine and unicorns and everything. And then we started rehearsing. And it was obvious that the piece would never see the light of day because the second lockdown was just like impending, and it was a really, really bad time because I had like 2 dancers who foreigners, and I don't think they fully understood what was going on because the government was always like, oh, and now we will, cut the number of people in a venue to, I don't know, 40, and you knew what was coming, but of course, I don't know whether it was like that in absolutely every country, but maybe, in different cultures or in different countries, the government would be far more straightforward. It's like, yeah, lockdown, that's it. But like the gradual sort of picking of like, oh, now it's 50, 40, 30, you knew where it was headed. And so the show was left hanging, literally. The grant was gone. The funny thing is I had to pay, like the venue sent me an invoice despite the fact that the show never really took place there.
And that a pandemic had caused the cancellation.
Yeah, exactly.
They're invoicing you for something, for an act of nature.
Exactly. They wanted their money. Okay. I just didn't have.
I guess they knew it was going to be their last check in a long time.
Yeah, probably. And then the following year, I thought like, okay, so I really want to do something about it, but that the same grant institution decided that for the following year they would award small grants for film, precisely because they didn't know whether stage would be happening at all that year. And that's the only way why that's the only reason why we actually got this minuscule grant. And I thought, okay, so we've got a bit of the choreography and I've got one of the performers still. So let's try to turn this into a film. And yeah, it worked out. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it worked out.
It worked out, and
more money.
and you obviously spent some time, because one thing you definitely do with guest is instead of obviously on stage it would have been a single location. Something wonderful you do with guest is make great use of different locations and things.
Oh yeah,
I guess there was a certain amount. Did you take some time to readapt it to the outside world or outside of theater? Or
yeah, I actually, but I think, I don't know. I like to think about things creatively, and I thought, okay, let's see what we can get. I would have liked more locations, but let's see what options are on the table. First of all, even getting the primary location, like the inside of the flat, that would have been an issue. And Renata, who's like my right-hand woman and like assistant producer, she's actually a set designer, set decorator, but she's really good at other things as well. She was like, oh, well, look, I'll do like, I'll scout the internet, all these like Facebook sites that offer locations, like film locations. I said, yeah, but we don't have money for film locations. Like, we even met up with this one location scout from Barandov, the big film studios in Prague, who works on all of these American productions that they shoot in Prague. And she was like really helpful, and she told us all about like licenses and permits you need to get for shooting outside and whatever. And she said, so what's your budget? And so we gave her the figure, it's like 90,000 crowns. And she said, oh, that's not a lot for locations. And I said, no, that's for the whole film, actually. And she was like, oh, okay. And so Renata then went on on this Facebook page, and she found this studio, and it's actually a photographic studio that they rent out by the hour, and it's really expensive. And I said, you're crazy. I mean, we don't have money for that. And she said, okay, so how much can you spare? I said, I don't know, 5,000 crowns. And it's just like nothing. This is like for 2 hours. And she actually contacted the woman, and the woman, like, she said, oh, I love dance. I used to be in this dance group and da, da, da. And she was really nice. And she just gave us the studio for 2 days. No questions asked. Like, really, she was just like, please be respectful of the space. Just walk around in socks. We're like, okay, fine. So that was great. And then the other location.
Yeah, the outdoor one.
Sorry.
No, I'm covering. We pre-plan this anytime. I understand. I appreciate you fighting through your cold. And
no,
so I'm supposed to talk.
It's
I'm supposed to talk when you need little cold breaks. And that one I didn't react fast enough.
No, it's fine. The other location was, our sound guy recommended it because he used it on a different occasion. And it's a location that's not far from where I lived. It's behind this old railway station. And it's a sort of derelict factory. And people actually live there, like homeless people live there. And I thought, well, can we shoot here? Does it belong to anyone? No, it doesn't. So we just did a bit of guerrilla filmmaking. No one was home during the day.
Right. So you were running the risk of some homeless people telling you to get out of their space.
Yeah. And they actually turned up, and because our shoot was literally the DOP, myself, my friend Renata doing the sets, and the two cast and a runner. So I don't know, 6, 7 people. And like, so they turned up and my DOP was like, guys, we're doing this. Would you mind coming back a little bit later? And they were like, okay. So
which is such a refreshing, needless to say, that doesn't happen in Los Angeles. Nobody says, okay,
really?
shoot your film. Well, because we have the industry here, everyone always looks at a film set and goes, okay, how much money can I get them?
Exactly.
Like people will turn up their car stereo loud just so you'll come over and give them $100 to turn off the music,
Oh, yeah. So we were really, really fortunate. I mean, these guys were really fine. And like with the first location with the owner of the studio, like I just believe in honesty, although it doesn't really work for me every time. But I said, look, this is what we've got. You can check the grant on the website. This is public. And of course, I will have to cover the rest. We did a bit of crowdfunding. I'm never ever gonna do crowdfunding again. I'm going public with this. Okay. No more crowdfunding platforms. So we covered a little bit via crowdfunding and the effort wasn't really worth the money. And yeah. And so most people like understood, but of course I would have loved to pay the cast and crew more, which I couldn't. And so.
I mean, I mean, it is very fairly an art film. So, I mean, how do we reward people for taking part in art? Yeah, that's the big challenge. I mean, from grants to this to that. In modern society, patrons of art are few and far between.
Yeah, that's true. But I keep thinking it's, a lot of people do short films. And this is one thing I wanted to say about the dance film genre. I didn't really aim for a dance film. I just wanted to do something borderline, like fiction, dance, experimental. And I thought someone is gonna like watching it. I don't think people appreciate short films enough. A couple of years ago, my local Kino, which is more of an art house movie theater, they actually screened the Academy Awards short film selection. This was, I think, 2 years ago. And the movie theater was packed. They actually sold out the movie theater. I mean, the manager came to speak to the audience. It was like, wow, like we've never seen anything like that, because it was an interesting selection and each and every film was different. And then people voted on what they think was the best film. I don't think, and I think like labeling things in terms of pure genre. I know, like, for example, horror is like a very has a very strict outline in terms, and it has a very strong fan base. But then there's a lot of films that are in between genres, and I think labeling things strictly is to the detriment of everyone involved.
I agree. And even horror has a lot of breadth, but yes, you are well, you're speaking to the right person on that topic. But amusingly, with the film festivals, we've come to accept that in order to acknowledge as much work as possible, we do come up with the names, but we actually put all the films into a pot. We just judge them as films. But then when we give out awards, we're like, okay, you dance gets its own award, because obviously comedy and horror and sci-fi drama, I joke about this too often, but when there's a drama about cancer, how is the funny movie going to win an award on top of that? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And art is valid,
Right.
even if it's not sad or dramatic. But as human beings, life and death type situations, it's very
Yeah.
But I agree with you that, and I agree with you that there is, every time people come to a festival and see a block of shorts, someone invariably walks up to me and says, I didn't even know there were so many shorts to see. And this is, it's so rewarding to just watch shorts. That's why we have the Discover Indie Film series on Amazon Prime, is because, when it was included with Prime, we got up to 10,000 viewers a week, and then they made us start charging because they didn't like it being included for free. But it probably would have grown and grown because in the end, I think I'm not surprised that theater sold out their day of shorts because, when you sit down for a 2-hour film, it's very hard to walk out in the middle if it's terrible.
Or 3.5 hour film.
Or 3.5. But if you sit down and watch, whether it's 40 minutes of shorts like we do at the festivals or a 90-minute block where you're just watching, it's just, if one doesn't strike you, maybe the next one will. And it's really a rewarding way, I think, to watch film.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to sit through something very long. And usually a lot of these short films have, quite a bit of depth as well, because you have to think about how to get your message across in 10, 15, 20 minutes. You can't just waddle on for hours and, rely on nice, long, slow shots.
and I, as someone who loves people's creativity, it's because short films don't make money. No one is making a short film. No one's saying, well, if we put $150,000 into this and hire a name actor, we'll get our money back. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So shorts invariably, I think, are more creative in their problem solving because you can't use money to solve the problem. You have to use creativity and or favors. But yeah, right. It's those creative solutions that are enjoyable to watch as compared to, when Christopher Nolan is making a film, all right, well, we need another, let's put $11 million into that nuclear explosion effect.
Yeah. I know you're right.
It's an impressive thing, but it's not creativity. I think shorts have pure creativity.
Yeah. But what I've realized now, because I've juried a couple of dance film festivals, there is a huge discrepancy between some of the budgets. I watch some films and you really see, I like the creative solutions. Okay, you don't have a big budget. Just use what you've got. Be really intelligent, creative, sensitive about it. But then I've seen short films with $120,000 budgets. Really? How are you supposed to compete with something like that unless you've got the same money? And there are film festivals out there, I know, that expect short filmmakers to deliver products with this sort of production value. Now, I don't know. I know that some countries give out big film grants. In Europe, it's generally places like Luxembourg, the Nordic countries. Canada has I know I've spoken to Canadian filmmakers and they get oh, I'm just I've got this grant for pre-production for a short. I could sit around a whole year and work on. Oh, admirable. Good for you. But not everyone has that opportunity. So, I don't know what to do about it. I'm not very good at getting money. This is really a big problem for me. I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and they're oh, you just approach these institutions, et cetera, and the people that are good at it, they make it sound so easy. And I admire them for that. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those. So this is always my biggest issue, my biggest challenge.
It is. It's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge.
I
But
don't know how do filmmakers, like most filmmakers in the States, do they use their own money or they do crowdfund?
I think it's a mixture. It's a mixture of the two. There's a lot of crowdfunding, and which is people need a nice social network to pull that off.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it's very often the budget of the film is based upon how wealthy someone's parents were.
I can imagine.
Like you can I have had those talks with filmmakers, and it is it's an art form, but for some, not many, but for some it is the playground of the privileged. I mean, there's no getting around that.
Exactly. That's what I said, like at the beginning of our conversation, that when I was very, very young, I used to think that filmmaking was for the privileged. And to a certain degree, it still is. I mean,
it still is. But thankfully, thanks to technology, right? Like when we were young, when I was in school, there still really wasn't quite video. Video was just coming in.
Yeah.
But it looked terrible and was very lo-fi. And now it's true. You put a nice little lens on a smartphone that attaches to it, and all of a sudden, and every computer on everyone's desk at this point can edit film.
Yeah.
It's become more egalitarian than 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Not to date myself, but yes, 40 years ago when I was in school,
definitely.
It was, it was hundreds of dollars per minute just for the film and to develop the film alone, if not more. It was, it's certainly a little better. So then, so people can pull off a surprise.
And that's true. But at the same time, I remember when we were doing the 48-hour film project, it was, we were studying. So we basically threw money in a pot and think, okay, this is what we can use. But then the film, there were actually full-blown production companies that entered the competition. I mean, we weren't in there to win any prizes or anything like that. But on the other hand, I saw really good films shot by one single person, self-shooting, like a film noir that I thought was brilliant. But of course, it doesn't have the big production value as, big production company. I mean, this is almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago, with drones and like cars and all of this like fancy equipment, locations, cars they would like drive around to country cottages. And I thought, like, it's slightly unfair comparing people with in that particular instance, with a different starting point. Of course, I agree, if you're running a big film festival and you get a brilliant film, you don't ask how much it costs. It's just a good film. And of course, it's got a bigger production value. I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. But hopefully there's always a balance, and hopefully there's those, you don't want to use the term little, but there's those films that are more creative than expensive. And I have to say, every year there's I think our festivals have a balance. I know some festivals, particularly in Los Angeles, all they care about is if there's recognizable actors in them, and they don't care about the quality of the film at all. They just know that recognizable faces, lift the prestige of the festival, because I like to curse, so there's just star fuckers.
I've heard that as well. Particularly, and I think the same applies to like festivals in Britain as well. I thought, like, actually Raindance did the same thing. They sort of pull films with big production value, well-known names. So I guess you need to sort of differentiate between film between film festivals. Some film festivals have simply have a different niche, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so getting back to you, so after Guest did its festival run and
Yeah.
whatnot, what are you looking towards? You still have the fire burning to make more films?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been lucky with guests. It's been to like I think 14 festivals so far, and we've come away with a few more awards and prizes, which was like really uplifting. And I can tell you the best thing about it is it was at this small, this independent film festival in Scotland. I couldn't go and see it, but I have friends in Scotland who went to see the screening and they said, oh, it went really well and there were a lot of people and whatever. And 2 weeks after the festival, I actually got an email from some people in the audience saying like, oh, we looked you up because we simply loved your film and the dance and movement just expresses certain things that the dialogue simply can't. And it was so sweet. It really warmed my heart because, you know that there's just one person out there who's paying attention to your film. So that was really cool, and that lifted my spirits. So this whole festival run and like the awards and the festivals, really good festivals as well. That sort of lifted my spirits. And now I have another film in pre-production, and I've already got like cast, crew, everything together, and I've got like a sort of portfolio, but I'm sort of missing. Of course, I need the money, and that's the problem because I don't want to go in for a grant. I don't know whether you've put in a grant for anything. Sometimes it depends what grant it is, obviously in different countries, but the filmmaking grant in the Czech Republic is like, I don't know, 100 pages. Like how would I even fill it in? I don't know how to make it sound good. I know that there are people who've received money, but I might invest too much of my time doing something that's not going to bring any result whatsoever. So I'm going to try to get some private funding. I'm going to have to bite the bullet. I've got some advice. I mean, of course, I'm ready for rejection, but this is the only way I can get like anything off the ground. And it's going to be it's going to be a film that will also incorporate a little bit of dance, but it's going to be crucial to the narrative. And it sort of will border a little bit on experimental. I get like usually also influenced by literature and visual arts, like fine art. So it's going to have all aspects of that. And of course, music. So I'm toying with the idea of I prefer to work with music already in mind before I start shooting. But this time I might try to experiment with someone composing music, but that's a very big risk, because the music might be good. It just might not be appropriate for your film
it is right. Yeah. Because you don't know what that composer will come along with. And one doesn't have the unlimited budget. Or exactly. No one has an unlimited budget, but obviously in a bigger budgeted film, you get some feedback you get some early pieces from the composer and you can guide them in this and that. But if you don't have a lot of money at hand, how do you make people write and rewrite music for something?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas if you just find some good public domain stuff that fits you perfectly.
I'm fortunate. I have like friends who've got like really good musical libraries, who can provide me with music free or give me the rights for just like pennies. So that's not that big an issue for me. But yeah, I mean, like funding is generally an issue for most people, and it is for me. But if I want to create something, I can't back down from it. So I just
yeah, exactly. I mean, there'd be no films if it weren't for people taking these risks and things. It always amuses me when people ask the film festival for a waiver to submit, because our answer to everyone is we wish we could. Everyone always writes the same email. Now that we're done with post-production, we're out of money and we've made this wonderful film. We'd love for you to give us a waiver. And the answer is, do you think anyone finished their independent film and has money left over?
Yeah, exactly. But like this is one thing that I would like people to know, because people who like I also have colleagues, interpreters, because I still do a little bit of interpreting, which actually helps in terms of the film, because it helps me adapt the dialogue and focus more on the meaning rather than on the words. And they think like, oh, well, you're just like sending your film out to festivals and it's like so much fun and everything. I said, yeah, but you don't know that I have to pay for the submissions. And it's not you don't get into every festival. That's not the way it works. And if I go to a festival, I have to pay for going there. It's not like, oh, yeah, of course, it's great to see films and talk to people from the film industry, but it costs money. And this is what a lot of people don't see. And they're really amazed that you have to pay a submission fee for a festival. I said, yeah, how do you think they get, like, they run? But what I would do, I have to admit, like later, I never asked for a waiver, anyone, but if the submission fee was fairly high, I would write to the festival and said, look, this is a type of film it is. Now, I appreciate that they still might not like it, but please, it's like, a little bit of dance, a little bit of experimental. It's not very sort of mainstream. Just like, can you just give me an indication whether something you'd be interested in? Because of course, like I'm going to throw out another 30 or whatever, $40. I at least want someone to watch it. It's fine if you don't like it. You don't have to like the film. Not everyone likes everything, but just please like indicate if you're going to watch it or not, because as you know, there are film festivals out there that simply just watch 20 seconds of a film and
I wish yeah, that's obviously true. I know we watch everything. Although I do admit I've never stopped at 20 seconds, but I do joke with people when I say that we get about 1,500 films a year between the two festivals.
Yeah.
And they say, you watch them all? I go, I start them all.
Yeah.
But especially if we're talking, boy, when people submit a feature that goes over 2 hours, has to be perfect. If it's not perfect,
right?
Do you think we're going to devote more than two? You add in a Q&A and all of a sudden you're talking about 2.5 hours of theater time. Pretty soon you're getting up to the point where we could show 2 blocks of 4 short films and do Q&As in the same amount of time as your single thing. It's just, it just has to be brilliant. And, maybe it is.
And I understand, because like when I told you I was jurying for this one film festival, if you have like a documentary about dance and dancers and it's just like a little interview after interview after interview after interview, and you have like 9 hours of the stuff, it's just very difficult to sit through it, So I understand.
No, I won't bother repeating myself too much, but I always tell people that Well, whatever. It's just, the documentary thing is always very funny to me because there are good and bad documentaries for sure.
Yeah.
And people think if they just have a great subject, it'll be a great documentary. And I'm like, no. I could show you 2 documentaries about the same subject, and one will be a wonderful film, and one will be just a film you can't get through.
Yeah.
You can take an inspiring humanitarian who's done amazing things in their life, and if all you do is sit them down in front of the camera and they don't quite tell the story well, yeah, it's over. Yeah. But that's great that you have another thing brewing.
I do. I most certainly do. And after the new year, I'm just gonna start following some leads that I have, and just hope. That's all. Hope
and things come together, just like with guests. Your locations came together in a wonderful way. So yeah, you have to be open. This is a very deep thing to say, but you have to be open to what the universe provides, right?
And you know what? We were also, I didn't tell you, we were missing one dancer 10 days before the shoot. We simply didn't have her. I just didn't know where to look. And then Daniela, the male dancer, said, look, I know this girl from like the dance class. And I hadn't even seen her. And I called her up. I said, like, would you be interested in doing this film? And she said, yeah, why not? Tell me more. I said, you want to meet for coffee? So we met for coffee. And I thought, yeah, I don't know. I just like sometimes look at people and I think, yeah, well, but I have to adapt it in my head to who the person is. And it worked really well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, sometimes that's the wonderful way to move forward.
How does the saying fortune favors the prepared? Fortune favors the...
Yeah, something like that. It's not rolling off my tongue, but yeah, it's and all what looks like good luck is mostly preparation, right? You have to put yourself in the situation to have good fortune. But I think I'm going to wrap us up so that we can have time to get in your 4 questions.
With another segment.
We'll do that. So that's the next podcast. That'll be its own thing. So perfect. And as much as I want to chat with you at length,
of course, I
think we have to. Life gets in the way.
I can chat to someone in Los Angeles. I think it's brilliant. Like being able to chat to you. It's such a long distance.
It really is an amazing thing now. Yeah. I know it all started with. Boy, it's 15 years ago when I first got to Skype with people who were in Europe. It's like, wow, this is cool. And it's just become even better.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, well let me do I will do my wrap up. Well, do you want to name if people want to look at Get? By the way, Get, and you I'm not going to complain, but I'm going to ask you to send me a link to Steadfast.
Okay, I will
because I haven't seen Steadfast.
I will definitely send you a link. It's a very different film.
I'm looking forward to it.
But I hope you like it.
But do you want to share your social media or website that people should check out?
I have a website. Unfortunately, I should do more work on it than I'm actually doing. It's www.Regina Hofmanova, my name, Regina, HOFMANOVA.com. And I'm on Instagram under the same name. That's how uncreative I am.
Well, or I would call you lucky that you can get your name
Regina
on these things.
Instagram.
Try getting the name Jeff Howard anywhere. It's very much too generic a name. But I will make those clickable. We'll make those clickable links in the show notes, as they say, and I will do the quickest ramble I can to get us out of here, so we can record more. Which we'll come back and we'll record. You talking about your favorite films and some unfavorites. So to share everything at once, this is the Discover Indie Film Podcast. It gave birth to a TV series on Amazon Prime Video because I kept talking to filmmakers after the festivals, and I found out the shorts needed a home. All the features were ending up on streaming. The shorts needed a home. So if you go to Amazon Prime Video, and search for Discover Indie Film. You'll see 7 seasons, 10 episodes each. Each episode is 2 to 4 short films. They're all wonderful short films from the festival circuit. And you can learn more if you go to discoverindiefilm.com, or it's at DIF Wins. Regina's film Guest won those awards at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2022. You can learn more about that festival that we hold every November at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. It has a sister festival every June, which is sunny, called Film Invasion Los Angeles, and people can learn more about that if they go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. Fingers crossed, every once in a while, someone comes up to me and goes, "Hey, want a Film Invasion LA in London? Film Invasion in London?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then I don't know. Maybe someday we'll have a European Film Invasion. And the last thing to mention is just for people to go to watchtvhi.com. Just go there, check it out. It's another thing I did to try to help out indie films. Okay, I think I got us out of here. Thank you so much.